Hey, listeners, welcome back to Sustainability Street, our podcast on the intersection of commercial real estate and the world we live in. I'm your host, Therese Fitzgerald. My guest for this episode is Marta Schantz, Director of Sustainability for AvalonBay Communities. As many of you know, AvalonBay is one of the largest apartment REITs with direct or indirect ownership in 315 existing properties and new developments. Shantz has been a frequent guest on this program while she worked at ULI as the co-director of the Randall Lewis Center for Sustainability and ULI's GreenPrint Center for Building Performance before that. And I was always impressed by her knowledge of and enthusiasm for sustainability. But this is the first time she's bringing an in-house perspective on the challenges and opportunities facing sustainability-minded CRE companies. She and I discuss AvalonBay's ambitious goals for decarbonization and green new construction, and what she's learned since switching over from the nonprofit side. I know you'll enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Hi, Marta. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be back.
This is the first time we've spoken since you joined AvalonBay Communities as Director of Sustainability. So congrats on your new role.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a big change.
Yes, we spoke a few times for this podcast when you were at ULI. So for those who are not as familiar with your work as I am, tell us about your sustainability journey and the journey to your current role.
Sounds great. Well, I'll start from the beginning, I suppose, because it's kind of a fun story how everyone gets into sustainability and real estate. I went to MIT. I have a bioengineering degree, and pretty early on, I realized that I did not actually want to use that engineering degree. Lab work and Excel's just not for me. So I got a science policy minor and came to DC with this, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed vision of saving the world, as one does. Right out of college, I got my foot in the door at the US Department of Energy and fell into the green building space there. And I really haven't looked back since. From the government side, I moved over to Booz Allen Hamilton in the consulting space, as well as a more boutique consulting firm called Waypoint Energy, focused on energy efficiency and real estate. And then I was pulled into the nonprofit space, leading the Urban Land Institute Sustainability Center, really focused on making the business case for real carbon emission savings that builds value. And the thing is, though, Therese, given all of those roles, I had never been in-house on a real estate firm's sustainability team. Always being on the outside, I was having great impact, great scale, but I wasn't directly engaged in the work itself. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw the opportunity to work with AvalonBay, I jumped, and here I am.
That's really exciting. So tell us a little bit about AvalonBay's sustainability program. What are the responsibilities and the goals that are now in your purview?
Mm-hmm. So, as you mentioned, my role is Director of Sustainability and Reporting. So, all things sustainability are in my purview across development, acquisitions, and operations of our communities. And our sustainability program of work covers both transition risk and physical risk. We've got efforts to work toward our 1.5 degree aligned 2030 carbon emissions reductions targets, as well as focusing on measuring and mitigating both acute and chronic hazards across different prospective investments in our existing communities. Of course, all of this is within the bounds of what makes business sense and really provides appropriate returns for the company. The other half of my title is about reporting, and I am in charge of sustainability reporting at AvalonBay. So our corporate responsibility report that comes out annually was just released last month. We're still quite proud of that, as well as GRESB sustainability reporting, rater and ranker engagement efforts, and other ad hoc reporting needs for investors or membership organizations. Quite broad, my role.
Yeah. So what does your team look like?
Our environmental sustainability team is a team of 3 where we're able to have one person solely focused on asset level decarbonization, which is pretty fantastic, being able to have some folks focused on the broad strategy and the reporting side, and then other folks just focused on asset level decarb. That way you can have progress ongoing. And so it's a good mix that we have.
I've read some about AvalonBay's solar initiatives. Tell us what's going on there.
We're quite proud of our solar program at AvalonBay. We've got the solar policy with set predefined return thresholds to ensure that solar is incorporated really consistently into our new development projects across the country and also our operating communities where applicable. So all of our new developments are required to be solar ready with all of the wiring and everything set up that way. And then with solar installation occurring as part of the development process where return thresholds are met. And then our operating portfolio is assessed periodically to identify opportunities for solar expansion based on wherever the market and regulatory conditions are at the time. So at the year end of 2024, which is our most up-to-date data, we had 68 of our 300-ish operating communities with common area solar and even more planned. And we also launched one resident solar program at one of our communities with more on the way.
Where is that community?
That one's in California. And so our resident solar programs, it's new for us. It's pretty innovative, because a lot of times in real estate sustainability, you focus on common area, you focus on the energy consumption that you have direct control over. But for our resident solar program, we install rooftop and carport solar PV systems to offset the energy demands of both our common area and our resident load. And we have set up a system where residents can benefit from this program by receiving that clean solar energy while paying less than they would for non-solar energy. So we're pretty excited about this. We've got decent signups from our residents as well on this first site that we've activated, with 15 more planned in California and Colorado over the next few years.
Wow.
Yeah. The last point on solar that I would note is that we've been a real leader to take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act's tax credit transfer provision. Being a REIT, a real estate investment trust, there are a lot of tax nuances to think about when coming with those tax credits. And so with the IRA's new tax credit transfer provision, we took advantage of that. We completed the sale of investment tax credits for 3 of our solar projects that we completed in 2024, more on the way for 25, and hope to use that tax credit transfer provision as long as we can.
What are some of the other ways that AvalonBay ensures that the buildings it builds and acquires are green buildings?
So solar is one thing we're quite proud of. Electrification is another that I would say we're really pushing the envelope on. It's at the forefront of our sustainability program at AvalonBay. It's part of our roadmap to achieve our 1.5 degree aligned emissions reduction targets. But I think we can all say it, even today in 2025, it's still not easy to electrify. It's not easy technically, it's not easy financially. And so we've been really strategic in rolling out phased electrification plans for our communities. We're encouraging our new developments to be all electric. We're watching the technology space to seek out advancements and efficiencies that really show technology readiness for AvalonBay implementation. One project that we recently completed was Avalon Brighton in Massachusetts. So it has all electric HVAC, which means cold climate heat pumps. Massachusetts, all electric. Like, here we go. It's got on-site solar, high performance building envelope, efficient window glazing, high R value insulation, right? All of the ingredients you need for a very optimized all electric building are there. And yet we were pragmatic in that we just weren't ready financially to have it pencil for all electric domestic hot water heating. So we didn't. We installed gas domestic hot water heating system for that building, and we have a plan in place to fuel switch to electric at the end of useful life. It's one of those things where we're trying to be smart. It's not all or nothing with electrification. We're making smart choices that work for business while still advancing toward our sustainability goals. You had mentioned questions around some of the other things we're doing, particularly around kind of acquisitions or new developments. On the development side, we have what I would say is a pretty industry-leading sustainable development policy. I don't get to take credit for this. As you mentioned, I'm new to AvalonBay, but I think it's pretty tremendous. It requires all of our new mid-rise and high-rise projects to be LEED Gold, but not just think about the certification. We also require energy efficiency standards in line with ASHRAE 90.1 2016. We prioritize electrification. We're tracking embodied carbon with a life cycle assessment. We're assessing the feasibility of on-site solar and battery. We're installing EV chargers and infrastructure for expanded EVs. And we're also working to divert 75% of our construction waste from landfill. So that is an incredibly robust, holistic take on new construction that we're not seeing everywhere.
How about mass timber? Are you doing anything with mass timber?
We piloted mass timber in one of the common area buildings of a development in the Pacific Northwest, and we have not yet found another project to advance it on, but it's still on our radar to see if we can think about incorporating that in the future.
So now that you're inside a real estate organization, is there anything that you realize now that you didn't know before or that you underestimated?
Absolutely. On the outside, I had mentioned I was always on the outside with all of my prior roles. I got to tout all of these best practices, innovative case studies, share the shiniest, newest innovations. And on the inside, it's sometimes a little less shiny, but with a much more direct impact. So don't get me wrong, we're still innovating, we're still piloting new technologies, we're still pushing forward on sustainability, but there are also a lot of tried and true, kind of boring or basic types of sustainability opportunities that we can focus on that really drive business return. So I'd say I underestimated how sometimes simple, non-shiny things are easier to adopt and still move the needle in a meaningful way.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, you're more aware of the financial implications.
I mean, I've always looked at the business case, but when you're inside the firm, you have specific returns and specific metrics and specific considerations that are looked at a little more broadly when you're at a nonprofit.
Yeah. So AvalonBay is in 12 states and Washington, D.C. Is that right? Is that
Sounds
the right
right.
number? How do you keep track of all the market-specific risks and regulations and
Spreadsheets.
opportunities? Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We do. We have industry partners who track building performance standards and related climate policies, like ULI has a spreadsheet, IMT has some good tracking. But when it comes down to managing against all of those different policies internally, we have a lot of performance analysis, financial analysis on spreadsheets to track potential fines and identify bespoke prospective efficiency measures to drive performance and meet very specific compliance paths. At a high level, you can look big, but once you're really facing these fines and facing these performance standards, like, it's a building by building analysis effort.
Yeah.
It's also a team effort. So we bring together our sustainability team with engineering and operations and asset management and capital projects to focus on each region's climate policies. And we really collaborate forward for compliance. We've got quarterly calls, we have regular check-ins, we have shared files. Our team is very connected on this to make sure that we're ahead of the curve and preparing for those policies coming up. So we keep a pulse on upcoming regulations and market changes. I think Washington, D.C. is a great example from their BEPS policy. There were questions this summer. Is it paused? Is it on? Is it moving forward? Is it changing? And so we're just staying sharp on all of that and staying up to date as we can to make sure that we're prepared for what's coming. It's part of staying competitive. It's part of managing risk. And so we're being mindful of that all the time.
Yeah. You mentioned the IRA before, and there have been a lot of changes in the last 8 months on the federal level when it comes to sustainability. How do you see the challenges facing sustainability-minded CRE companies now that the federal government is less supportive of sustainability?
Oh, well, despite the political headwinds of the federal government, we are still seeing a lot of climate related regulatory activity at the state and local level. And that is driving us to keep pushing forward and to stay smart on all of the different requirements we're facing. California in particular has its climate risk and reporting regulatory requirements starting in 2026 that affect us around climate risks. So the Task Force for Climate Related Financial Disclosures reporting, as well as our Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So we are not only focused on broad reporting, we're focused on local building performance standards, no matter what the federal government is doing. On top of that, regulations aside, the business case is still strong for sustainability within commercial real estate. And that's really where we're focused at AvalonBay. Financially, you're saving utility costs, you're saving operations and maintenance costs. That is still important. Also, our investors, particularly those based in Europe, still have strong expectations of our sustainability performance. And our residents, actually, based on input from our most recent ESG materiality assessment, they see sustainability as an important part of AvalonBay's business. So altogether, no matter what happens within the federal government, we still have a drive and direction to follow through.
So my last question, as a media person, I always like to ask my guests what they're reading or listening to or watching that may inspire or inform my readers, my listeners, rather.
Okay, hear me out. Tom Steyer's LinkedIn has been awesome lately.
Okay.
He is one of those industry leaders who understands that climate action and business success go hand in hand. And he hasn't been shy to voice his opinion on a lot of hot topics of the moment. The OB3 bill's impact on renewables, the outdated and inefficient energy infrastructure of our utility industry, the best solutions to meet the grid's skyrocketing electricity demand. He really understands the details of it all, and yet his posts come across very rational, very approachable. So if you aren't following Tom Steyer on LinkedIn, I recommend you start.
Okay, I think I will. Anything else out there?
I don't think so. It was great to connect. Thank you for taking the time.
And great to connect with you, and good luck in your future work.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, listeners, for joining me on Sustainability Street. If you have any questions about this episode or suggestions for future episodes, please reach out to me at Therese.Fitzgerald@cpe-mhn.com. Bye for now.